Hi Chris, how are you?
Hi Roger, I'm well. Here we are, episode 215, and it is the 8th of March. And is it me, or are we really getting through this year? Should we dive straight into weather?
Yeah, let's do weather. I'm going to go first for change. It's piddling down here.
It's not raining, but it's what some might call soggy. Apple weather app seemed to tell me there was going to be no rain, and yet I seem to have a very damp. I seem to be living in a very damp climate, so I'm not sure what's going on there. There was a new weather app, and I haven't quite looked at it yet. It was from the makers of, is it Dark Sky, that's sold to Apple? Yep. And apparently it's meant to be quite good because it takes different forecasts, coalesces them, and gives you like the mean of what all these different things look like. And I was going to take a look at that. And given how rubbish Apple's app's been today, I might actually give that a shot.
You can't.
Oh.
It's US only.
Sound like you to rain on my parade?
Well, I think it's very appropriate given the weather, but you know, that's a boom tish.
Yeah, that was. I hadn't thought about that. That was a good pun.
It was a good pun. If you'd meant it, it would have been better.
Oh, if only I was that clever. So I can't actually get it in this country.
No, it's US app store only at the moment.
Poo. And I've never really subscribed to a weather app, but I was just like, it looked kind of cool. And they make it Dark Sky. Obviously, you've done a really good job. But yeah, there you go.
It's called Acme Weather.
Acme Weather, that was it. Okay, Acme Weather. I will take a look.
You can't take a look, like I say, because it's US only.
It just looked kind of cool, like the design style, like a little classic with the sort of serif font that Apple do, you know, and it looked quite nice, and I thought I might like that, but you've just ruined it for everybody.
No, I haven't. I haven't ruined it for everybody. If you're American, you can make use of it. Yeah, it's called Acme Weather. For those watching the live stream, the recording, not live stream, you can see it's here. It's Acme Weather. It looks very pretty, and you can download for iOS. But should you try, it will say not available in your country.
Wop wop wop. That's a shame because it's rare. There's two things here. It's rare. I actually want a new iOS app, and I think it's rare that apps localized. And I kind of get it. I guess that it's a new app. Perhaps they're trialing it with some providers in the US. So I kind of get it, but it is rare for those two things to happen. I actually want something, and B, I can't have it. So, oh well.
I paid for Carrot Weather. I think it's £15 a year or something like that. I have just let it lapse, actually, because let's face it, most of the time you're as well just looking out the weather. Apparently, I read a thing once that if you say the weather today is going to be the same tomorrow, you're going to be right 50% of the time anyway. So, you know.
I'm not normally that fussed by it, but I just was getting annoyed, and I've got a dog and children, and I just thought, I fancy trying something. And there was a little bit of hype around this a couple of weeks ago.
Shall we do some follow-up instead of doing apps straight out of the gate?
Yeah, that's my fault. I apologise. I'm ruining the show. So yeah, let's dive into follow-up. What have we got?
So first up, we've got, and if I can find the right link, that would be really helpful, office.eu, which is... we talked about, I think 3 weeks ago at this point, where everybody in Europe started reacting very badly to all the tariffs and everything. We all started looking at our infrastructure. And this, I don't think it's official, but it's certainly designed to be an EU-facing, entirely run on EU infrastructure office suite, in the same way that Office.com, if you're a Microsoft fan, will give you all of those things as well. So there's a wait list at the moment, but I think some companies have already started using it. It's open to all 27 member states, plus Great Britain, Swiss, and wherever NO is. I don't know where NO is.
Norway.
Oh, of course it's Norway. So 530 million people, so I'm quite glad we're included in this. It's 100% open source. There's a bunch of big companies in Europe already using it. And it contains a drive, document, spreadsheet, presentation, calendar, talk, and email components. So I think this is really interesting, and well done for the EU bloc for getting this together so quickly.
Yeah, it looks kind of cool, doesn't it? Fair play, they're capitalising on the moment. But I like that at the very top of the page it says "built for Europe" in like its thing. So they're really leaning into the European angle.
I mean, it looks like Nextcloud with Collabora Suite to me, which is a thing that you're able to run. But why not? I mean, Nextcloud is a German software provider. It is entirely open source. Put some decent servers behind it and really optimize it, and you've got a very solid foundation there.
A lot of these apps, though, all look fairly similar. Like if you look at the spreadsheet one, if you glance at it, you go, it just looks like Excel. but which probably makes transition quite quick, like because they all look very similar. So yeah, the switch probably isn't that scary. I guess the issue is if you're sharing documents outside of your ecosystem, how well all that works. Would you just share PDFs? What about incoming? But other than that, I'd imagine they're probably all pretty good at reading them these days.
I mean, I've been making an effort to use LibreOffice more at work. Outlook is slightly more challenging because Outlook's so proprietary and baked into Exchange or Outlook web service or whatever it's called, Office 365 these days. And I would say I've got no problems at all with LibreOffice Writer, which these will be based on underneath the hood. And the spreadsheet app, Calc, I think it's called, is also excellent. Most of your formulas go back and forth. The thing I've been most impressed about with the Pages version of the app, the Writer version of the app, is that collaboration stuff, so editing, commenting, checking, accepting changes, tracking changes, all that kind of stuff, I think is actually better than Word for the way it's presented to you. So it gives you a list of things to work through rather than you having to scroll through the documents and find the comment and find that one alteration to a space or something and right-click to accept change and all that kind of stuff. The flow is better for me. The presentation app is hot garbage, though. I mean, it's absolutely rubbish. For somebody who lives inside all day, pretty much in presentations, doing academic things and presenting to participants and other research and stuff, it's truly dreadful.
Oh, okay. Actually, I do quite a few presentations, quite a bit of Excel. They're probably my two main things.
I think you get fine with Excel, but maybe I'm just missing something about the presentation thing, but I've really struggled with it.
Yeah, okay. It might work for me because I'm quite a light user of it in that I'm just basically making what becomes a PDF, but I just do it as slides, then they become a PDF.
That's probably fine. I'm hot on my transitions and moving things around. So I'm a very heavy Keynote user, not even so much a PowerPoint user. I got very used to the way Keynote does things. And I struggle with PowerPoint, so maybe it's my fault, not the app's fault.
I've always wanted to use Keynote, but just never been in the environment where it was acceptable.
You can make it so, Chris. You're the head of what you do.
I know, but you've got to bring a lot more people on that journey.
Yeah, but you need to drag them kicking and screaming. Actually, don't. Drag them kicking and screaming at this and make your life easier for the future. I think we've said enough about that. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
So this is quite a big story, actually, I think. This is the news this week broke that Google is going to end its 30% App Store fee and fully endorse third-party app stores. It's probably starting with Epic, if you read this article. So this is from Engadget from March the 4th, and we get two big Google stories this week, and this one was kind of a bolt from the blue. Nobody saw this coming, that Google were just going to, okay, do what you like, pretty much.
I think this is really good, isn't it? Like, they've really read the room, and they're just like, right, we're going to hopefully answer all the things that we've been taken to court for and do the right thing, which is what we've said Apple should be doing. They should be leading the way on this with their moral compass, but have failed to do so because they haven't quite made enough money. So yeah, this is really good. So they're going to drop their cut from 30 to 20%, which is good, and in some cases going to be 15%. So that seems really, really good, doesn't it? Like, huge for developers.
Well, it's huge for people in the Play Store, and somebody's going to say, well, Google doesn't make as much money as Apple in this anyway. It doesn't matter. More people use the Play Store than use the App Store because there are more Android devices out there. And if they cut these and developers start putting in the same level of polish and effort, well, vibe coding things aside, to their apps on the Play Store, then this can only be a good thing. And people who've been put off being in the Play Store will now think, actually, I'm not losing so much money. It is a bit of a hassle to run my own app marketplace. Why not just use the Play Store? It's exactly what Apple should have been doing. I think all of Apple's nonsense up to this point is going to come back and bite them when the alternative is doing this. Although, when we get to the news, there's a reason that might not be quite so good entirely for Google. But on the surface, this is really good. They're lowering those prices. It might even be different in the US and the UK and the EEA. You might get charged a 5% fee in those areas. Plus, you're able to run your own billing. Fantastic.
Yeah, so users can, or developers, can use their own billing. Like, this is just fantastic, and you can have your own app stores on there. It just feels like Apple should do this. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot more Android devices. I don't know if it's because I've changed job and I'm in a population where they use more Android, but just generally I'm seeing a lot more Androids. And in fairness, there's a bigger range of devices with different different ways of folding, different screen sizes, different price points, much lower if you want to have the more basic phone. So
yeah, we're going to talk about phones a little later on, and maybe we'll come back to some thoughts about Android devices versus Apple devices as we go along. Anyway, I think this is good from Google. More of this, please, Apple.
Yeah, Apple, you should be leading the way here. You're the ones or have led into the fact you've got a moral compass. You should be doing this first.
I think at this point we can't agree that they've got a moral compass. I think the moral compass points towards hell, frankly.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, if we look at everything they've done recently. And I'm not saying Google are saints in this at all, but at least they're charging people less money.
I don't think any big corporation is saints. That's how they end up being a big corporation. But there's a line, isn't there?
No, but I used to get all ethical for a minute, I think I used to have a metric in my head for who were the most evil. And the most evil still hasn't changed in my head, and that's Meta. Meta is by far the most evil, And then I used to have Google, and then I used to have Microsoft, and Apple were always at the bottom of that list. I think they're all just as bad as each other at this point. They may say different words, but their actions speak very, very differently.
Yeah, they've all ended up in a similar state of affairs, I think.
Equally evil. Somebody who's not equally evil is Benk. We're going to talk about some of the new Apple products that are released this week later on. It was interesting when 9to5Mac published one of these things straight under the new monitors, which we will talk about. Was this Benk one, which is a 5K 27-inch Thunderbolt 4 monitor at £999, and I thought this was an interesting device.
Yeah, no, this looks great. Benk got some great devices out there. It's a good price point. It's going to come in at $999, that is, and it may well obviously drop in a sale on your favorite e-commerce website. This is one to watch. I think this looks really good value for money. And they've got a 6K one, which I've got my eye on. It's not officially launched, but that's about £1,300 for a 32-inch 6K. So Benk have got some really good devices, and they tout being Mac friendly. They've got a Mac app. They adhere to what Apple do. So I do wonder if this is going to be a good, viable third-party option. Now, for me, the aesthetic externally doesn't look as nice, and I just need to get over that, I think. But I'd like to see some of these in the wild.
So I'm using a Benk screen to video conference with you and chat with you right now. It's a 4K screen, it's 27 inches, it's very bright, the Mac app is fine. I mean, it's never as seamless as using Apple's own monitors because, there's strangeness around speakers and connection. However, I can plug 3 different devices into this at the same time. It has got its own speakers. I have got a lot more control over what's going on. It's a very lovely screen. And frankly, as we've been talking about with macOS and iOS for the last few weeks, I don't care that the bezel around the side is black instead of silver. It's very small. I don't look at that. I'm looking at the content on the screen. I don't care. I mean, I use a Studio Display work. It's fine. It's no better than this. It's nice to have a couple of integrated things. But frankly, if I'm saving, well, in this case, what's the difference between this and a Studio Display? 1,300, 300 quid, 400 quid?
More like 500 quid.
Right. Let's face it, that Studio Display is a screen that's at this point 12 years old. So I'd rather have a newer panel, frankly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement at all. Sorry, I was just looking at the Studio Display price, and it says, £1,500 for the basic one without a height adjustable stand.
Is that the old Studio Display? It's the same price.
No, it's roughly the same price. So 1,500 quid if you don't want a height adjustable, and if you do want a height adjustable, it's £1,900.
So, as with my screen, Thunderbolt 4 with 96 watt power delivery, so I can plug my Mac into this 4K screen now. Thunderbolt 4, and you can daisy chain to other devices. I think this does that too. And it's got a KVM, so you can switch one keyboard attached to one input and switch between them. It works really well. And has got picture-in-picture if I wanted it. So, there's a lot more in this. All right, it doesn't have the speakers aren't nowhere near as good as a Studio Display, but go and buy with that 500 quid you've got left over like a serious hi-fi system instead, if that's what really kills you.
Yeah, I've actually gone and bought some Harman Kardons for my shed, so I am giving Benk a serious side eye. Like I say, I'm keen for a 6K one because I fancy a little bit more reason estate. Also, for me, I've got a Nintendo Switch dock down here, so it'd be great to be able to switch channels and go, I'm going to have half an hour on my lunch break and play a Switch game, which is something I would like to do a bit more of.
I think it's worth considering. Something else that's worth considering is Claude, looking at their infrastructure a little bit. Claude had some serious breaks this week, with it going down for a couple of hours, most days as far as I could see, because I was using it a little bit to do a little bit of stuff at work, but you can see, like in their uptime detector, it's been down quite a lot over the last few days. Not ideal, it must be said. I suspect some of this is actually attacks by other agencies, given what Claude have been in the news recently for not supplying the American government and then supplying them and then not supplying them and then being under attack. And it all sounds a bit strange to me anyway what's going, but as you see, it was down for a couple of days in a row. So not good if you're a user of Claude and you pay for it.
Yeah, I haven't, but Claude is what I'm giving the side eye to of Feels like there's a lot of good noise around it. For some reason, I've ended up on ChatGPT just as my de facto go-to, rightly or wrongly.
I think that's probably because of Copilot and something in your head you think it's that.
Quite potentially, and my family seem to use it a little bit, and I don't know why. And they've obviously spent the marketing dollars, and a lot of people think when they think of modern day LLMs, it's kind of like in the old days when you think of search, it was always Google. And I think at the moment, ChatGPT is the one for modern day consumable LLMs.
Yeah, I think their reputation's struggling, and even Sam Altman has admitted they've missed the boat with the last couple of their updates. Claude is a better model in my experience, and I've done a bit of coding with it now, and I'm really impressed. Really impressed.
So do I need to move?
Yeah, you do.
No, I'll be honest. It doesn't become that sticky for me, in that I'm going there for de facto for things. I think I've just been so busy, I just haven't really chance to think about it.
I mean, at the end of the day, it depends what you use it for. And at the moment, this is scratching an itch I've got to build a couple of things that I don't care that much about, that are already in fairly secure places, that I don't need to worry about security models. Was this actually internet facing? There's no way in hell I'd use any of them, and I'd code it myself. So,
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
But I've been very impressed with the way that it works anyway.
Fair enough. I will take a look.
Check it out. Should we do the news?
Let's do the news.
First up, that fine British company Nothing, purveyor of smartphones and headphones, has a new product out this week, and it's called the Nothing Phone 4a Pro and the Nothing Phone 4a. So obviously this is their fourth iteration of the Nothing Phone. It's quite nice to see something that even is not made in Britain, but has a British CEO, is headquartered here, and I think it's quite nice to see this kind of thing in our current mode of supporting things that are made in the EU and the UK. It can't be a bad thing when they release new stuff, and I actually think these look really nice. I think it's an evolution of Nothing's design, where they started with this glyph thing where you had LEDs in the back of the phone and you could set your own patterns for it flashing if somebody rang you or texted you, or you got an SMS or a WhatsApp message. The lights would go in a particular way. They've actually moved on to having a whole screen on the back. There's 3 cameras on the Pro version. It's available in a couple of colours. I think it's a pretty decent looking gadget.
Yes and no. I think it looks kind of cool. The specs looked great. Part of me is like, should I go and try one of these at some point and leave the Apple ecosystem? But I'm not sure. The back just looks a little bit unfinished.
You think?
I think the black's the stronger one there, in my personal opinion. Tech companies do seem to be, I'm going to say coalescing again, around pink, silver and black as their de facto colours, because we'll talk about a new iPhone in a minute. But I do think it looks cool, but I just don't know if it looks a little unfinished. Maybe that's just me.
I don't think that's fair. I quite like the look of it, and this has sort of been their industrial look going back through the phones. I don't think you can argue with the pricing. The basic phone is £349, and I'd quite like to get the specs up if I could, but I can't. For 8 gigs of RAM and 120 gigs of storage. And I don't think the Pro phone is much more than that. Yeah, it's $499 for the sort of higher end one. Good cameras, good screen, 120 hertz, all the kinds of things that you're going to be looking for within a phone. And they've committed to operating system updates as well. And I quite like the branding. I don't mind it at all, 3 cameras there. I quite like that little notification thing on the back. They're going for a particular, it's a generation we're not part of with this, but I don't mind it. And I like the previous generation where you could split the back off of it and insert a lanyard, and they made it slightly upgradable from that point of view for being able to swap in and out cases and things like that. I quite like what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Sorry, I'm just trying to navigate their website while we're talking. Their website is... Maybe it's aimed at a younger audience than me, but it's interesting. I'm not sure about all the dots everywhere. That's driving me a little bit potty, if I'm being honest. But they only go up to 256 gig, but it's £550. It's pretty good for the new Pro phone. That's a good price
for their Pro phone. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a decent looking device. There's a lot going on in here. I think they still give you a charger in the box, Chris. Can you imagine?
I'm not fussed about that, to be fair. I've got so many USB-C devices. But apparently it's got 140 megapixel zoom. Wow.
Yeah, 50 megapixel camera. Well, there's more than one camera. There's a main camera. The thing I like about this is it's got a physical 3.5 times zoom on it. It's got a periscope lens. Weren't we talking about Apple phones having periscope lenses way back when? Nothing had just got on and done it?
Yeah, did that ever come to anything?
Nope.
Okay. I do love the camera system on my... I think that would be the one thing really holding me back, is I love the cameras on my iPhone. But maybe this is just as good, and it's kind of where you could do with a try and buy,
Absolutely. And if you think this is literally half the cost of your phone.
Yeah, that's a bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so well done, nothing. This looks like a good device. I'll be keen to read some reviews when it's actually in people's hands for real.
Yeah, I'd like to see your friend of mine, Mr. MKBHD, do this one because I do love his reviews.
He's done them in the past. Moving on, one thing I'm less happy with Google about is Google are apparently about to bring in developer verification in the same way Apple already has. So Apple claim this is for the Play Store on Android. So Apple do this because they claim it increases security and you'll have less spyware and malware and viruses, and we know that's not true because lots of things, including QR apps and two-factor authenticators and shady gambling apps and all sorts of things have got into the App Store before now. So, it's all very well saying it, but the worry is that this is Google beginning to lock down Android to the extent that iOS already is. Lots of people who like freedom type stuff, in whichever sense you want to take freedom, I'll let you listen to that. Choose Google for that reason. It means that one of the reasons Android has done this and people like it is every year, possibly twice a year, Google releases a thing called the AOSP, the Android Open Source Project, which means you can download alternative versions of Android that people can run. Things like Graphene OS are based on these drops that happen every so often. So if Google tightens the screws, as they're planning to do, I think it's in November, I can't remember the exact date, it's coming soon anyway, then A, these drops may stop, and B, developers will need to verify themselves in the same way that Apple do. Now, I don't think the Play Store has a worse reputation than the iOS Store when it comes to viruses, scammy things, and all the rest of it, so this feels like an unnecessary step from me. Although, viewed in light of what we talked about above, about making the App Store, dropping all the payment requirements for the Play Store, maybe these things go hand in hand a little bit, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, you can kind of see it, can't you? Right, okay, you don't need to distribute through us anymore, but you do need to be a verified developer to distribute. So you could argue that maybe, like you say, maybe the two go hand in hand, and therefore it does make some sense that they've launched this now.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's something you can keep an eye on. Google's very own walled garden. I mean, Google had a walled garden. I would think if you were very, very deeply in the Android ecosystem, then you're not going to jump to Apple. The same way people very, very deep in the Apple ecosystem aren't going to do. It's interesting. Both companies, I think, have been lowering those walls a little bit to at least give the perception that it's relatively easy to go before them, so they both appear that there's competition in the market. That's the only reason they're doing it, is they can't, of course you can take your photos with you, of course you can take your text with you. Look, we both make apps to allow that. I mean, I think they're much of a muchness when it comes to it. However, it just depends which company's getting up your nose more at this point, I think.
Yeah, you've got to pick the least worst option, haven't you?
You do. It was MWC, which is Mobile World Conference in Barcelona over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't know how much of an eye you kept on it, Chris.
None.
Well, I'm going to show you a couple of things that I thought were cool that came out of MWC. The first of which is Lenovo taking a page out of Framework's book. So some new ThinkPads have come along that are designed. There's all sorts of crazy things, as they always do. So there's like unfoldable laptops and all sorts of things. But this is a modular one which has pogo plugs in it. Effectively, you can just swap the components in and out, so the keyboard will come off. All sorts of things will happen within that should you choose to do it. Try and get to the mute step very, very quickly. So it's just designed, to come apart and be modular at the same time, which I just think was a really cool thing. Kickstands on the back, whatever you need to add to the laptop to do it. But they also made it very easy to get in there, change the SSDs, put in more RAM, change the bezels around it, do what you want to do. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love something like that, I think, because we do change what we fancy. Like you do want more storage sometimes. You do want Ethernet. You do want HDMI. And sometimes it changes, and the specs change. And it'd be great if you could swap these in and out, like we've discussed with Framework in the past.
Yep, and I'm loving this blue color on the ThinkPads, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm a big sucker for a blue laptop. So yeah, I think it looks cool.
I gotta say, of all the manufacturers, I think Lenovo have done the best at keeping that iconic brand going. Often when a brand is moved to another company, it loses something. A ThinkPad still looks like a ThinkPad from back in the day.
I think they went away from it a little bit in the early Lenovo days. I could be misremembering, but you're right. They've definitely lent back into it, and that's got a bit of cool retro about it. I like it. Yeah,
the fact you can change things on it. I think it's got a 120 hertz screen for on a laptop. Imagine that, and we've only just had those on MacBooks, and you pay through the nose for it. These will be cheaper, but look how modular it is. You can pop the back off it. You can get in. You can change the RAM. You can change the SSDs. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, so well done, Lenovo. More like that, please.
Agreed.
Another company that we don't talk about very much, but used to be massive when it came to mobile phones. I think you had a couple of Motorola phones back in the day.
I may have done. I remember I did have, I can't remember what it was called, the iTunes phone, the one that Apple did
Rocker.
with.
R-O-K-R Rocker.
No, ours was different over here. It was like a thin black one. Wasn't the original one like quite a chunky grey one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Rocker.
What a shocking phone that was. Like the hardware, pretty good. Software, no, it wasn't that. It was the next version of that.
The next version?
The next one. Like, try the E8 one. Now go back.
Oh, this makes fascinating podcasting.
No, try that one. Yeah, I don't know now. It was something like that. It had like a silver keyboard on it. But what an awful phone. Just absolutely shocking. I only got it because Apple had iTunes on it and it was rubbish. And obviously Apple learned from this. I think they had to do this to end up where we are today, because maybe if they hadn't have partnered with Motorola, they may not have done the iPhone.
I mean, Motorola, iconic for being one of the pioneers of mobile phones. Anyway, the Razr was obviously their most iconic phone, well, that I remember. I even had one briefly. It was pretty cool. It was a folding phone before folding phones became cool again. It was the folding phone, frankly. And now they've come out with this Motorola Razr Fold, which is a cheaper version of, Google Fold, Pixel Fold, I should call it, and Samsung's various series of phones. So I think this is pretty cool that we're seeing more and more of these folding phones on the market. And again, it just makes Apple look very late to this market.
I'd agree. If I was going to go to Android, we've obviously just talked about nothing. I would probably go for a fold sort of phone, because I think for my job, I'm commuting a lot. That would be super helpful. So, yeah, I'm a little curious to see what's coming.
Yeah, I was watching someone on the Tube use one, and I've always thought they're a bit unwieldy. You get them in the pocket, unfold them. But then if you are settling down for like 10, 15-minute journey, why not? Why not have that screen real estate? You could get stuff done.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them do kickstands, but that would be the one for me, I think. If you had, if you're going to be on the train for an hour, kickstand, pop it on the table.
Well, I mean, I know Samsung has its DeX thing where you plug it in and it basically becomes a Linux desktop. If you plug it in via USB-C to your screen, you can have a mouse and a keyboard and you can actually use it like that. The guy on the Tube just fired up an Excel equivalent, might even have been Excel, and started messing around with a spreadsheet. And I thought, that's really cool. I wouldn't often think about doing that on my phone.
No, you get some serious productivity in there.
Pretty good. So again, well done Motorola, and shame on you Apple. Where's your folding phone? I gotta say, these companies, particularly Samsung, that are on their 5th, 6th, 7th generation of these, are getting some serious experience about what happens in the real world with hinges, screen protectors, durability, drop protection, waterproofing, IP68 ratings, all that kind of stuff. Apple are way slow to the market here.
Yeah, agreed, and we're still buying them,
aren't we? Media, because we've got no core corner.
No, I'll be honest, I've been so busy this week, I think I've done anything, which is a bit sad, isn't it?
I can see you've added nothing to the media section, Chris, so it's just on me.
I generally don't think I've been away a lot. I don't think I've really watched any media, unless you want to talk Big Bang Theory.
Not really. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Quantum of Solace, which you teased me about for not having watched a Bond film last week because I was putting off Quantum of Solace, so just to spite you, I've done it.
You've done it. And it was the shortest, I think it still is the shortest Bond film ever.
I don't know how I feel about this. It's certainly not the worst Bond film.
Is that just because it's more modern and hasn't got some old stereotyping in it, or just genuinely it's not the worst Bond film? Because I remember it being quite cutty.
It's extremely cutty. The honest thing about it is, if you haven't just watched Casino Royale, and there was quite a there was about a 4 or 5 year gap between Casino Royale and this. It wasn't an immediate thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't have who's in the boot of the car, what's going on here, what's this, what's that. And I feel that could have been handled a little bit better. Bond films don't normally do that. You more or less get a reboot every film. There might be threads.
They're largely independent stories, aren't they?
So having just watched Casino Royale, it flowed into this a lot better, I think. So it's not a great film. You can see the writer's strike was going on. There's some really questionable things happen in it. Like, it's basically 5 or 6 big set pieces and car chases and boat chases and things like that. But that's okay. I'm here for that. And Daniel Craig's always very watchable in it. It's not the horrendous mess that, Die Another Day was, for example.
Yeah, fair.
And again, I don't think, having watching them all in this kind of sequence, I think all of the Bonds are good. Brosnan was a good Bond. Roger Moore was a good Bond. Daniel Craig is an excellent Bond, but it's very dependent on the scripts of what they're in. I think Daniel Craig may edge Roger Moore for me slightly because he just is so cool. And that comes over in this film. He's clearly doing some of his own stunts. There's some iconic moments in there. Not bad. I think its Rotten Tomato rating, between 58 and 63%. I'd go with it. It's certainly not the worst Bond film I've ever seen.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. Maybe I need to go back and have a rewatch myself. But like I say, I'm stuck in a Big Bang 12-season marathon at the moment.
Yeah, you need to get through that, mate.
I'm on 8 out of 12. That's not bad going.
It's pretty good going. Did you ever watch The X-Files?
Nope.
Never watched The X-Files?
I swear every week you try and make me amaze you even more with something I've not seen. I should have done. A lot of my friends are into it, but for some reason I just didn't quite get into it.
Are you aware of The X-Files?
Oh, yeah, I'm 100% aware of The X-Files. Do you remember the Catatonia song?
Yep.
There you go. So I'm aware of The X-Files. I understand the premise. I've always seen bits of it, but I was just never really into it.
It was iconic television back in the day. Mulder and Scully were, well-known characters. It launched Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny's careers. It was very well written. It was one of the first TV shows, I think, with an overarching theme that, the plot did go from one to the other, which is fairly rare at that point. Most sort of science fiction-y or any shows just, again, reset. Even Star Trek or something like that reset. It wasn't until later at seasons that things began to change. So The X-Files was quite an innovator in its day. Chris Carter was one of the writers. Vince Gilligan was one of the writers who went on to write Breaking Bad and things like that. So obviously showcased a lot of people too. That's all good. So, I was a big fan of The X-Files, and one of the things I will forever be grateful for is it introduced me to Nick Cave, who's probably my favourite music artist in the world at this point. I heard, I think it was Red Right Hand, and played in one of the episodes, and I was forever smitten with Nick Cave. So if nothing else, The X-Files did that, as well as being a great TV show. Billy Connolly appeared in one of the films, bizarrely.
I'd forgotten there were films.
Yeah.
How many films were there? One?
Two, I think.
Oh, okay.
X-Files Fight the Future and another one. The films are fairly forgettable. And in later seasons, when David Duchovny took some time off for whatever reason, they had the actor Robert Patrick that played the T-1000 in Terminator 2, pitch up as one of the agents.
Oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
So there you go. That was the X-Files. Anyway, all that is to say, it looks like it's being rebooted. Ryan Coogler, who's been all over the news recently for winning BAFTAs and Oscars and, being one of the best regarded directors in Hollywood at the moment, is officially going to write the pilot, apparently. So I think it's quite exciting. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe I need to go back and rewatch The X-Files 20-something years on. I wonder how they've aged.
I guess it would be interesting to see. It's a good show, though. You should give it a go.
Yeah, normally I watch things when it's gone out of fashion, but I think I've gone a bit too long on this one.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to do it right. Games?
Go on then, let's do some games.
So the most important game of the year has arrived, and everybody knows.
Has it now?
Slay the Spire 2 dropped on March the 5th on the Steam store. There was clearly a bit of pent-up demand for it, because when I went to buy it about 20 minutes after I saw the email saying it was out, the Steam store was actually down and wouldn't let me purchase it.
Do you think it was having a denial of service attack where all these people were buying Slay the Spire 2?
I think it was. So it's available in early access. It's not a finished product yet. It cost me, I want to say, $17.99, and it's fabulous, and I love it, and I'm totally engaged with Slay the Spire. I think I've already played it for 5 hours according to my Steam counter. So
we haven't had the difficult second album, as sometimes it's called, because sometimes games don't live up to the hype, do they?
No.
Or albums.
And to be fair to them, it's taken them, I think, 5 years to produce Slay the Spire 2. There's some of the similar sort of hero characters in it. I don't think you played it that much.
I did play it, but I've just struggled with my brain. Just doesn't do this kind of game.
It's a phenomenal game. The original characters are back. The art style's new. They've had to rewrite it in an entirely new engine. I think it was written in Unity, I want to say. But if you remember all that scandal with the Unity engine about it, charging developers more over a certain install rate, they moved to, I think it's to the Godot engine, and it looks fabulous. It's really nice. It's a very modern looking game. I quite like the fact that there's some of the classic stuff in there. It's all new beasties and monsters for you to fight your way through. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying it.
And is this just available on Steam?
Yes.
Because Slay the Spire was also available on other mediums, I'm going to suggest.
Eventually, it was available everywhere.
Right, okay.
You could get it,
but they've got to start somewhere, haven't they, I guess?
And because it's early access, it's still in active development. They're obviously going to make a lot of changes. I think the original Slay the Spire was in early access for about a year, as they sort of twiddled with it and changed all the bits and pieces. So I presume something similar will happen here, that once they're finished, it will appear on those other platforms.
Kind of feels like Civilization, whatever number we're on, 7, has been in early access for the last 2 years as well.
Yeah, they released that far too early, didn't they?
Agreed.
Moving on, we have news from Valve. Valve obviously announced the Steam Machine and the various other bits, controller and the VR goggles, Steam Frame, I think that's what it was called. Last year, they've obviously been hit by the memory and SSD crisis thanks to all these data centers and ChatGPT. They're saying they still plan to ship the Steam Machine in 2026, but I guess we'll see.
It's not good, is it, when we're still planning to, like we're in the third month now. I was hoping it'd be a bit more, you've announced it. I was hoping they'd be a bit more like, we've got a date for you, and here's a bit more detail. So, because I'm giving this the side eye. My gaming PC doesn't need a big upgrade because I don't use it a huge amount, but if I were, this would be in the realm of something I might go for, or the framework.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I think it's going to be a really interesting machine. They don't have the purchasing power of an Apple. I think the reason we haven't seen all the massive expensive upgrades and a load of Apple stuff recently is they've pre-ordered or pre-manufactured or whatever it is that they do to keep those prices nailed down. They will be affected ultimately as well. Valve are a fairly small hardware manufacturer.
Yeah, tiny. I did see on the mobile app for Steam, though, it's had some update that mentioned Steam Frame, so they must be getting towards something coming up.
I'm really keen to see it. And last but not least, in very uncharacteristic news, Apple is going to be presenting 3 sessions at the GDC, which is the gaming festival in San Francisco. There's going to be 3 lectures: built for games, explore Apple hardware and software, bringing Cyberpunk 2077 to Mac, and maximize your game's potential on the App Store. I mean, this sounds like they're just trying to sell to developers more than anything else.
Yeah, agreed. But it is a game developer conference. But Apple should have been doing this year on year on year and starting to build some credibility with game developers rather than developers having to be on Apple because it's the App Store. So, I don't know. Apple's got such a rubbish game history. They should just go and hire a real game enthusiast, stick them on the board, because they just haven't got anybody in that upper echelon that is a gamer.
I mean, we talked about this last week, that there's more money being made selling games on the App Store than all the other platforms combined. So they're in such a dominant position, they probably don't feel they need to. At the same time, as we've talked about, I think Apple are losing hearts and minds with all developers, not just gaming developers.
But they're not good games, though, are they? I mean, how often are you on the tube, train, bus, and bus stop? You see people just playing some form of ad-loaded shovelware game that's not a compelling game. I'm sorry, there's just not very many really good games out on the iPhone.
Well, Slay the Spire's on there.
There's 1, and obviously 3s. There's 2. There are some good games, but you remember when the iPhone first came out, you had I can't remember what it was called, the game where you had to reroute the planes and stuff like that. Some really good games, really well thought out, and we just haven't really seen that. There's just lots of shovelware games. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Well, I could show you the Civ 7. You've got Civ 7's on the App Store. I haven't even launched that. I
haven't even got any desire to play that on my phone. I just think it's the wrong interface. I want a nice big screen. I want to sit down with a keyboard and mouse and take my time. And I think that's my problem with Civ, in that I just haven't got to the position where I can set that sort of time aside for it.
Fair enough. Main show?
Yeah, I feel bad. I've not watched any media other than Big Bang. I've not played any games. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audible books. But for some reason, I'm just not in the games media playing space at the moment. And I don't know why.
You're letting us down, Chris. Can't leave it all on me.
I know. I am a bad person.
You're a bad person and you should feel bad. And you don't even watch all these recommendations I give you every week.
I don't know how you fit it all in. I don't know. Life's busy. You do have adult children, whereas I very much don't have adult children, which is causing me some problems at the moment.
That's fair enough. Main show?
Yeah, go on, let's do the show.
So the main show this week, Apple did their... I thought it was going to be a week of announcements, or certainly 4 days worth of announcements, but they crammed it all into 3 days. They did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
I thought it was going to be 3 days, just because they had a presentation on day 3. It could have been spread out over a week. I think Apple could do this better, in that they could do something like every Tuesday and for 7 weeks and launch something then. But they seem to squishing it all down into one big lump, and I don't really get why, because everything just gets pushed together. So I think I don't know. I think they could do this better, because they didn't have an event. They just had a bunch of press releases, and then they showed some tech journalists a video, and then I guess they had a hands-on session.
So let's go through these in the order in which they were announced. I think I pretty much remember what it is, but if I get this wrong, do tell me. So first up, on the Monday, they dropped the iPhone 17e.
Yep.
So it's...
Yep. I don't know what more you want me to say. Yep,
well,
they did drop it.
They did drop it. I mean, this is quite a hard thing to talk about in one sense. they made the criticisms of the iPhone 16e better. So it's got the A19 chip in it, I want to say. It's got they put a magnet in it this time, so it's got MagSafe. And they made a new color. And other than that, it's the same as last year's phone, right?
I think, to be fair to them, this is probably the one product where they actually addressed the shortcomings of the previous year's product, which will become clear in a minute. So yeah, you can get it in what do they call it? Soft pink, white or black. So fair enough, good colours. They've put the magnet on the back for MagSafe, which everybody was like, why has this thing not got MagSafe? So I think that all makes sense. It starts at 256 gig storage, which I think the last one was 128, and it costs £599 a month. A year. Sorry, I was just reading their interest page. Or financing page. So I think this is to me is the phone that companies should buy their staff. It's a shame it's not coming a little bit cheaper than that, because what you'd like to see when you go to the iPhone page, in my opinion, is you've obviously got the Pro, you've got the Air, you've got the 17, you've got the 17E, and they're still selling the 16. Like the 16 should drop off. The E should be hitting that price point, in my opinion. But actually the 16 is more expensive than the E, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So it just seems a bit weird. Like, why aren't all the phones the same generation when they're going to be releasing them like this?
And why has it still got a notch?
Yeah, they really should lean into the dynamic island, I think. The dynamic island's awesome. So maybe that's next year's thing, but they can't do it all. It is the cheaper phone. But this, to me, is the company phone that you buy, people.
I mean, you say it's the cheaper phone, but it's 600 quid.
Yeah. It's cheap for an iPhone.
Yeah, but I mean, we just talked about the Nothing Pro being, what did we say, 499?
Yeah, about 500 quid.
So 500 quid with a triple camera system, with a 120 hertz screen, with a bigger battery, with, and then you get this at 600 quid. And all right, it's not got the iOS ecosystem, which isn't necessarily the advantage Apple think it is at this point. But just for devil's advocate, this is Samsung's cheapest phone, or their cheapest sort of consumer phone, not their ultra range, and it starts at 399 quid. It's got a triple camera system. It's got a 120 hertz screen. It's got a bigger screen at 6.7 inches, I think it is. It's waterproof. It's dustproof. It's running a modern version of Android, and we'll get 6 versions of the updates, and comes with 256 gigs of storage. So
I don't know what you want me to say.
I just think it's interesting that Apple think and get away with saying this is a competitive phone when you've got that kind of competition in the market.
It is crazy, and a lot of companies buy these phones for their staff, and then they're buying them a £700-800 laptop to go with their job as well. So this makes up a huge proportion of a new starter's equipment that they need. I
mean, I work with a lot of charities. Every charity gives their employees a Samsung phone. They never give them.
It's a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper.
Significantly cheaper.
And I get that it's not a like for like thing. I mean, the famous story is that when Lexus entered the market, Mercedes put their prices up because they wanted to be seen as having that quality difference between them and Toyota. So it doesn't surprise me, Apple, and this is why they don't necessarily need to charge more for RAM and all the rest of it, which, by the way, we should talk about. This is a little more expensive than last year's phone, isn't it? Because they got rid of the lower RAM range.
Yeah, they have. Yes, they have cut out the lower RAM range. Sorry, I was just thinking for a moment, because of Apple Intelligence, they need more RAM in their devices.
Anyway, I mean, it's better than last year, I suppose, is the nicest thing I can say about it.
They've addressed the main problems with last year's phone, which, like with other products that we're about to talk about, they haven't done that. Yeah. So it's fine. It is what it is.
It's fine. So the next product they announced on the same day, it's fine.
Same day,
new iPad Air. Now, you're the iPad person. I'll let you talk about this.
Here's the iPad Air, the same as what it was the year before, but with an M4 chip inside it, basically. So what I do like here is, unlike previous years where iPads have just sat doing nothing, it's great that they're refreshing them, because they shouldn't be selling stuff that's 2 years old. Like, just rev the internal so that when people go and buy a device in 2026, they're not buying a device that's originally from 23, so this is really good, or 24, sorry. Really good. So they've put an M4 in it. They've also put the Apple N1 in it for networking, and the Apple cellular modem. So good device. This is what companies should buy. It did kind of feel like Monday was the day where here's the iOS work devices that we recommend. You've got the iPad Air and you've got the iPhone, and these are probably the devices that most offices, companies should buy for their staff, because the Pro is too expensive for the really insignificant gains you get of an M5 and Face ID. This also goes to 12 gig of RAM inside it, so it's a great upgrade. I think the iPad Air, most people should probably get the iPad Air if they want it for work.
Can I push back on that? I don't think they should, because by the time you bought your iPad Air, 499 quid, and you put it in a keyboard case, and have a pointing device, that's probably another 150 quid.
The keyboard case is a killer.
Yeah, and this is still a very compromised device. It doesn't have Face ID.
It doesn't have Face ID, and it just doesn't have the apps. Like, people aren't building the apps for it at the moment, which is the shame.
So I don't see the delta between just buy the cheapest possible iPad and get a keyboard case for that. And at that point, it will probably come up to the same price as an iPad Air, and you're really not going to notice that much difference in performance.
Yeah, a lot of people really don't on the iPad range because they're just not pushing them to the limits. They are well engineered, they're great devices. Am I using my M4 iPad Pro to the max? No, I'm not. Like, I'm not pushing it anywhere near as enough.
So unlike in the laptops, I think this is a gulf that if you're a super high-end iPad user, you're just going to buy a Pro at $999 and stick a keyboard case on it. But the middle, I don't think this serves the middle at all well. Nobody needs this power, particularly at this range. Get a cheaper iPad, get a pencil to put with it if that's what you want to do in the keyboard case, and it'll just about come to the price of this, and it will do 98% of everything you'd want it to do for the kind of people that they're targeting the iPad Air at. I think it's a dead product. I think it's a waste of time.
Wow. It's definitely the product in the middle. And it's amazing Apple spends so much time on their iPad lineup when it's a relatively small proportion of their business.
I mean, maybe I'm being slightly unfair to it, but I don't really see what brings you. If you want the better screens and all the rest of it in the face, you're going to go Pro. If you're not bothered about that kind of stuff, you're already in at the bottom end of the market. Yeah,
potentially, unless you want a bigger screen, because these do come in 11 and 13, whereas the regular is just 10 point whatever. But if you're buying the 11, maybe the 10 point whatever is close enough.
I think it probably is. And again, you might have been an exception for this, but most people I watch on their iPads aren't doing a huge amount of multitasking and all that kind of stuff on it. What they're doing is in single window mode, and they're doing the things that they want to do in it. I just don't get the iPad Air. I don't get it.
I love mine for travel, but I think it's just because it's got a SIM card in it. I think if I had a Mac with a SIM card in it, I'd be in a different place.
And you're a Pro user.
To a point. I'm using Office apps in multitasking. That's largely my job.
Which you'll be able to do on a bog standard iPad.
And, yeah, true.
I mean, and the real elephant in the room is a laptop they released later, further down on this list as well, but we'll come to that. So this was day one. Day two, I think, was the Studio Displays?
Yes.
So on day two, Apple killed the Studio Display and the Studio Display XDR and replaced them.
No, the Pro Display XDR.
Sorry, the Pro Display XDR. This terminology is going to be problematic. So we have a new, in inverted commas, Studio Display, which costs 1,500 quid for the bog standard stand that comes with.
Which is just a tilt adjustable stand.
And I think, as we said in the run-up to this is the only difference between this and the previous one, or this is Thunderbolt 5 gubbins in the back of it. Is that it?
I think marginally better camera.
Really? You sure about that?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the specs for the panel, which is what this is. It's a panel. 27-inch 5K Retina, 14.7 million pixels, 600 nits of brightness, 1 billion colors, P3 wide color gamut. I'll ignore the center stage camera for a minute. That, with the exception of the brightness having gone up 100 nits, is a 12-year-old panel.
Yeah, they've basically released a new Studio Display. They've not really changed anything that anybody was complaining about. It should come in with a built-in stand. It should be a bit cheaper. They didn't update the graphic to show a different wallpaper. They've not made the bezels any thinner. I love my Studio Display a lot, and I bought it in 22, so it's 4 years old. It's been solid, but this should be different. This should be better. It should have a better refresh rate. It's still 60 hertz. When I bought this 4 years ago, you said, I can't believe you're buying a 60 hertz screen. And here we are 4 years later, it's still 60 hertz. Most people don't care about it, but you're charging a premium price. It should have some more premium features. And I'm a little bit sad because I'm in the market for a new screen. I fancy something with a bit more real estate, something maybe a little bit better. And I'm annoyed this isn't it, because I do love the aesthetic of it. Every time I walk into my office, I see this lovely screen, and it's the first thing I see because you literally walk past it to get to my desk. And I'm a little bit gutted because I would be potentially in the market for one, but I'm not going to spend this money on a screen that is no real significant difference to what I have before.
And it isn't even height adjustable.
And it's not high, and that is something I wish, if I could have my time again, I should have bought the height adjustable stand, but I didn't. But I should have done. But it was so expensive. But I wish now, knowing I was going to keep it for this long, and that is a thing. You buy one of these screens, they do last a long time.
Yeah, I mean, 1,500 quid for 12-year-old tech is really pushing it. And there are all manner of, even that Benk, which is a far newer panel in a slightly less good package, perhaps.
Yep.
But I don't think anybody should be spending 1,500 quid on this screen.
No, like I say, it pains me, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah, if all right, that seamless Apple experience, but it's crazy to me that the screen they embed in a MacBook Pro 14-inch is better than this in most noticeable ways. Why can't they give us a good external display?
Yeah, I don't really don't understand it. They got back into the display game. They did what we wanted, and then they've done like they've done with the AirPods Max. They released a second version and changed nothing, like other than the connector, and that's largely what they've done here. It's really disappointing.
It's very penny pinching, and I agree with you. It's very disappointing.
They've had 4 years to do this.
Well, they've had 12 years to do something about this panel.
Fair.
You might be better buying an old 5K iMac and, putting a different frame on it. You'd have your own studio display for a lot less money.
Well, I think the bank.
Or one of the Chinese panel manufacturers that will do this for about 300 quid.
Yeah, could potentially.
Yeah. It'll wobble a bit when you touch your desk, so put it on a Visa mount. But other than that.
Shall we look at the next Studio display?
Yeah. So the Studio Display XDR, which has gone down from being a 32-inch display at 6K to being a 27-inch display at 5K. And that in itself is quite disappointing.
This should still be a 32-inch 6K screen. Like, what are they doing? How have we shrunk? And they brought that 32-inch 6K screen out in 2019. Here we are 7 years later, and some of this will be better. Don't get me wrong, it's got Thunderbolt 5 on it. It's got Millionaire LED, but why has the panel got smaller? This I thought was a lock for a 6K screen, and if it was 6K, I would probably be working out how I could afford it. But I can't afford it, and they've not really done enough to it.
It's not big enough. I got to think if I had the old XDR, I'd be incredibly disappointed by this. I'm losing definition, I'm losing screen size, I'm losing the real estate that if I'm a developer, a video editor, and whatever it is that I'm doing that demands as big a screen of Apple quality, in inverted commas, that I can get. I'm not buying this. I am looking at a 6K bank or something like that because I've got used to. I heard John Siracusa on the ATP podcast talk about once screens get bigger in computing, they don't get smaller. You very rarely go to a smaller screen. Maybe in your laptop if you're looking for portability, but on your desk you want as much real estate as you can get.
Yeah, completely agree with him. Especially in a world where we largely have one screen these days, and you have one really good screen. And a lot of screens are 34 inches, some are 49. This is just disappointing. It looks good. Like I say, I do like the aesthetics. They look really nice. They're very simple, though. It's just, Raj, you look so upset with yourself. They do look nice. I do like the aesthetic, but they just haven't done anything with it. It's got the same 6 speakers. It's got studio mics on it, which I do use. I use it a lot for video conferencing at work. But it's just disappointing. They've just done not a lot with it, really. And I'm sure the panel is lovely, but it's £3,300. You do get the high adjustable stand, though, but it's £3,300. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of money.
A lot of people have multi-monitors, particularly at the 27-inch range. I think if you've got the bigger one, then you're going to be a one-screen person. 2 bank 27-inch 6K screens are still not the same as this. It blows my mind that they think this is... The problem is people pay it, and this has always been the criticism of Apple is it doesn't matter, people pay it, and if you're happy to pay it, then you pay it. But this just feels... It feels swingingly expensive for less screen.
I completely agree with you.
And then, to the sort of real kicker, if you have an older Mac, like you bought an M1 Mac Studio with all of the fancy stuff in it, and you think, I'm going to get myself a nice shiny new screen, well, it won't drive at 120 hertz. There's a very limited list of computers that can drive it at 120 hertz. So even buying the best screen on the fanciest Apple hardware of a couple of years ago isn't going to guarantee you're going to be able to run it with all of its features on.
Yeah, I don't like it. It blows my mind that they've released this and not read the room and not really just dealt with what's gone before. Apple, they should be making the supercar monitors that people really want to aspire to, like that 5K XDR. Yeah, but they haven't gone anywhere near it. It's really bizarre. So very disappointed, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's not really good enough, is it?
And I was, like I say, I was looking forward to studio displays coming out. I was thinking, right, I might get one. Let's see what they've got. And then they came out, and I was like, oh. And it was just, oh.
And again, just to put it out there, you can buy something, and please note I didn't pick Amazon. This is an LG Ultrafine, which I don't think looks all that different from on the stand that it's on to the studio displays that we've just been looking at. It's a 32-inch 6K monitor that runs Thunderbolt 5, and it's 1,800 quid.
Yeah, goes to show these screens are out there. And look, maybe what I need to do is get myself a good Vaser stand and buy a screen like that. I'm just, like I said, I think I fear the Banks won my heart, if I'm being honest.
Good screens, and they've got Mac users in mind. They've got Mac color profiles built into them, so you get that kind of performance. Yeah,
and I think that's where I'm going to be heading.
Fair enough. This was also on the Tuesday, wasn't it? They also dropped the new MacBook Air and MacBook Pro. So let's take a look at the MacBook Air first. This has had a bump to M5, and that's it.
It has had a bump to M5, but I think it's also got the N1 chip in it for networking, which is fine. I think this device it was a great device last year with the M4. It's a nothing real upgrade, but I think they've done what they needed to do. This is a great machine.
Yeah, I think it is a good machine, and I'm being slightly disingenuous. They have upped the price as well. It's 100 quid more expensive. For that 100 quid more, you however get more storage. It's got 512 a standard now rather than 256.
Which we did say last year they should have made when they did the 16 gig around, they should have done the 512 at the same time. So they've now covered that off, which I think is fine.
I kind of wish they'd given us some more colours. The sort of you breathe blue as you put it in the envelope, as Marcus says on the blue one, is looking a bit grey now. Maybe they need to pick something else.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The colour is a bit weak, so I don't know what you can do about that, but everything else. So I was just checking the comparison page. Everything else roughly remains the same. Surprised there's no more battery life out of this device, so it's still getting the same battery life, but it now gets Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6. If that is your thing. Yeah,
if you want to go up on the SSD, you need to actually go for the better processor as well. I'm not sure why that's locked together like that.
I've got a thought about that. They've done this on other laptops. I wonder if they're forcing you to get the better processor to help them offset the cost of SSDs going up.
Anyway, 16 gigs of RAM is standard. You can put more in it if you want to, but if you want to put 4 terabytes in, it takes the cost of the computer up to 2,299 quid in the 13-inch model. That's quite expensive.
Yeah, for an Air, that is. Yeah, that is quite expensive.
I think the trick with the Air is you go for the default option. You don't need a bigger one. Get the 13-inch, get the standard storage, get the standard RAM. 16 gigs is more than fair enough now. This is the default Mac for most people. If you know enough to ask how big is the SSD, just buy this.
Yeah. No, this is a great. Like, you could send somebody into an Apple shop and go, just buy it. If you need a laptop, get the 13-inch Air. You'll be fine, and you will be. And it will run your Photoshop, and you will be able to edit videos on it. It's more than good enough. I always find it slightly stingy. They only give you 2 ports with these things, but it's fine. At least a Thunderbolt 4. So I've got the old Air. It's 12 months old. It's fantastic, and I've never really struggled with the ports because you do get MagSafe on this. Yeah, you do. They also upgraded the MacBook Pros at this event. I think we're all a little bit surprised about this because the rumour is there's an M6 coming with a touchscreen later this year. So why did they bother? But at the same time, if you've got the Pros and Macs, then you drop them, yeah? I think so. And obviously they dropped the M5. And you never know, though. Could the M6 gets delayed? So I guess it makes sense if they've got it ready to go. No real major changes here, I don't think. I think they've got the N1 in it for networking, which makes sense. Apple are putting that into nearly everything now. These are great devices. I think the cost is roughly the same, but it depends on some of the configurable options. Again, if you want to get the bigger storage, you need all the bigger amount of memory. You need to pick the more expensive base chip. But they are great looking devices, and it's good that they're all on the M5. I think it was a bit messy when the low one was on the M5 and the other ones were on the M4. But these look really good. They look great devices, but you soon get to a big number quickly when spec'ing one of these. You really do. My work laptop is an M3, and it has an M3 Pro in it, and I'm just looking at how you spec this up. And again, I think these are 100 quid more expensive, but they're giving you more base storage again. Yeah, they've gone to 1 terabyte, which I think makes sense. The Air you get 512, and then the Pro you get 1 terabyte. For me, that is the right amount.
At least this time you can go up in the RAM with it bumping up your chip spec as well. So I guess I'd already gone up because I'd gone for the Pro one. Yeah, I mean, these aren't cheap devices. I've made a few clicks here. I just wanted a bit more RAM in mine, and I'm up to 2,599 quid. But ever was it the same? The MacBook Pros are not a cheap laptop.
They're not, and they're never going to be any cheaper, are they? I think they're a great device. I loved having one a few years ago. I had an M1 one. It was beautiful. A really nicely made piece of kit. Really impressive, but it's a lot of money to spend, and I think I would struggle to justify it.
It is. And where's our interesting colours, Apple? Come on, black or silver?
Cosmic orange.
It seems to be the way to go. Come on, you haven't waved your phone in front of us this week. You do it every week, Chris. There you go. Come on, there you go. And it wouldn't be the podcast unless Chris shows us his orange phone again. I think this is good. You know who you are of your MacBook Pro purchaser, particularly if you go beyond the base spec. The base spec is just because it's got Pro in the name for most corporations and things like that. I think you know who you are if you need these kinds of things. You either think you're a pro, in which case you're going to be buying the more expensive one, or you actually are and you need it and your company's buying it for you.
Yep, no, that's fair.
Last but not least, then, we have our all-new MacBook Neo, the cheapest Mac Apple has ever made.
So the day before they released like one of their most expensive laptops ever, and then the next day they come out with potentially the cheapest laptop ever. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about this in some ways. So the MacBook Neo isn't running an M series chip, it's running an A19. It's not got the fanciest display technology. It is a 13-inch laptop. It is available in a few more colors and things like that. It is constrained to 8 gigs of RAM. I don't know why they called it Neo. The name MacBook was just there.
Yeah, I don't get why they didn't just call it MacBook. And that would have been in line with the other lineups where you've just got an iPad, you've just got an iPhone, you haven't just got a Mac, but you could just have a MacBook. So I don't get why they did this.
Yeah. It starts at 599 quid. With an educational discount, you can get it for 499. It's available in, I need to find the names of the colors. Where are they? They're not on this page. If I go to the pre-order page, you'll probably find them. They're showing out the green or citrus option a lot, I think is what they're doing. Here we go. You can have it in silver, blush, which is pink, citrus, which is green, or indigo, which is like dark blue. It doesn't have a backlit keyboard. It doesn't have a Touch ID sensor out the gate. You need to spring for the more expensive 512 gig one to get that. But again, I think I'm torn on this. If somebody said, I want a Mac and all I do is surf the web, fine, go and buy a Neo. Don't upgrade it. Just leave it exactly as it is. You'll probably have many happy years out of it. I think 8 gigs is extremely stingy, though.
I think this is a great device. I think it looks cool. Just to follow up on Neo, my understanding is Neo is Latin for new. So I guess it makes some sense. And I'm guessing they wanted a 3-letter word because you've got Pro and Air. But obviously something's only new for 1 year, in my opinion.
I think, showing my age, I think Neo, I think of the character in The Matrix.
Yeah, we all do. It's weird, isn't it? So the name, I wasn't that taken with the name. MacBook would have made a lot more sense, especially harmonizing with the other lines. I think they've made... My gut says they made the right sort of compromises. They've got this down to 500 quid for education, which is fantastic. So, like you said, they've not got MagSafe. They've not got high impedance headphones. They've not got backlit keyboard. It has got fancy sensors in it to do things. I think this is a great little machine. I'd love just to pick one up and try it. And I think if it weighed a lot less than my Air, I'd be tempted. But weirdly, it weighs the same as my Air. So there's little reason to try this, but next time I'm in London or near an Apple shop, I will go and take a look at one of these.
I mean, it's much better than a Chromebook, which is what I think they're going for here. If that's your market, is a super high, cheap-end Windows laptop or a Chromebook, this is significantly better than that, and I won't knock Apple for that. And it will last you a couple of years. They're quite good, and it will be well built. Although a lot of low-end laptops are made out of plastic because they go into schools. Children aren't very kind to the laptops. This is a metal laptop. It will ding and scrape and scratch very, very quickly. All right, the hinges might not go crack in the same way they would in a plastic laptop, but these things break too, and they're not treated gently. So I hope it's robust enough that it can survive day-to-day school or low-end business use. I think this is a far more sensible device than most iPads. However, if you can get it for $499. Don't buy an iPad Air, buy one of these. It's far more practical, far more useful. You can install whatever software you want on it, within reason, I'm sure. This isn't going to be running Final Cut Pro, and this isn't going to be running DaVinci Resolve at the best possible. You'll probably do a little bit of it, very light stuff, but you're not going to do anything very intensive. However, a bit of email, a bit of surfing, that kind of stuff, this is a perfect laptop for you, and it's available in fun colors. For me, 16 gigs of RAM just would have gave them a bit more breathing room when it comes to some of the sort of AI type stuff, what's coming down the line, because 8 gigs was not good enough 2 years ago. It's certainly not going to be good enough 4 years from now when these are sort of kicking around on people's shelves. And that's my only concern with this laptop.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there is talk that if next year it goes to the A19, it would get 12 gig because that's what the phone had when it ran the A19 Pro. So I think this is a great device. If my children were at that point where they needed a device for school, I'd probably buy them one of these because it depended on what they were doing. But if they were just starting out, this is a great way to get somebody into a Mac without spending a huge amount of money and be worried if they did ding or scratch it. Yes, it's still £500-600, but it's a great device, and I think it would certainly get people in the door, get them used to using a Mac. And like I say, you're not going to be too upset if they did ding it, didn't quite look after it right, whereas otherwise you're spending £1,000.
It's funny that my eldest daughter texted me about this. She said, "Ooh, these new Mac laptops are good," because she liked the color. So genuinely, I think if they put the Air in these colors, they'd have more people stepping up to that next level. Which they care about their margins. They'd care about that. It's interesting that.
Yeah, Apple and colour, right? It's just frustrating. They just don't seem to be listening. But maybe they know better than we do. That actually most people are really conservative and buy very plain stuff, but then they don't offer the options.
I always hear people saying what colours are available, and I think that myth is gone. And I blame the iPhone 5C when they released things in fun colours and people didn't buy it. I think it all goes back to the 5C, all their hesitancy about colour.
Yeah, you could well be right, but that was a long, long time ago. They've got to move on from that, haven't they?
They do. I told my daughter, by the way, she can't have one because she does things in R and she does, programming effectively on it, and 8 gigs of RAM isn't going to be enough for her.
Yeah, it's not gonna push it, is it? And if you order these from a website that does not sponsor us called KRCS, they've already got 50 quid off it.
I'd be using my educational discount from the university to get these, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't live in that world.
You have kids in school. I think you may be able to do it that way.
Yeah. I should look at that, because maybe if they ever want anything like this, that's how we should fund it.
I think that's how you should do it. There we go. Any other thoughts on all this tech?
I think they started the first day with some good upgrades. The second day was a bit meh, and then the third day was okay. But you've ended with a very base level machine, which is new and a little bit exciting. But it was a not very exciting week, I think, because some of their decisions around price and specs was a bit disappointing.
With my corporate hat on, the MacBook Pros are interesting to me because they're always interesting to me, because I occasionally have to refresh some of my analyst machines and all that kind of stuff. I always want to know what it's going to cost me and what they get for it. I think the increments to the M5 Pro are good. I guess we'll see the benchmarks for them coming along. And I think the Neo is interesting just because of the end of the market's in. It's a place Apple doesn't normally play at the cheaper end of the market, so that's interesting. For me, the displays were a complete washout, and you should be looking elsewhere. I think the iPad Air was a complete washout. It's interesting that the laptop's the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the Air was a good upgrade. The Pros, good. But like I say, you just get to a big number so quickly with the Pros, which is a bit frustrating. The Neo, I really want to go touch one and see one, but I'm disappointed how much it weighs, I think. But on the whole, it's great. They're refreshing stuff. They're not just letting it all languish. I'd like a bit more of this from Apple.
And I think not having a keyboard backlight, how much does it cost to put a couple of LEDs under the keyboard?
All eats into those profit margins. But how much do you need a backlight? I don't know.
Well, it depends if you work in the dark. Lots of people do.
Yeah, okay. But let's see. I think the proof's going to be in how many of these do they shift, and does this cannibalize the iPad? That's going to be the interesting one now, because you can buy one of these, or you could buy an iPad and part of a keyboard, whereas this comes with a keyboard. So I think this is going to be super interesting.
I think you should buy this over an iPad. And I meant to say at the top of the podcast, I apologise to anybody for any noise in the background. There's been work ongoing outside of where I am, and it is beginning to impinge. I'm not sure we'll do anything about that in the edit, but there we go. App of the week.
Go for it.
App of the week, I've talked about it already. Slay the Spire 2. If you have at all interest in games, why wouldn't you go and get this? It's terrific. It's 20 quid. Support the developers. It's nice to see an indie developer doing so well. I think they've done a fabulous job with this. And considering how early access it is, it's super polished. And yeah, Slay the Spire 2. Best game played in ages.
Fair enough. And I'm not surprised this is your app of the week.
I try not to do this. I try not to do a game as my app of the week, but unfortunately this has distracted me for everything else this week.
No, but my view of it should be the thing that you've enjoyed the most this week. That's maybe surprised you or was a delight. So this should definitely be it for you.
And just to say, Windows, Mac, Linux. Well done, Steam.
Yeah, that is good. Tick, tick, tick.
Tick, tick, tick. Thing of the week.
So for me, I've gone with an Audible book. I've listened to a lot of Audible books lately, but I've actually gone for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But they've been re-releasing all the Audible books with a full cast doing the voices and background noises and stuff. And I did buy this when it came out. I am a subscriber to some service where you basically get lots of credits, very cheap. But I listened to it to begin with, and I didn't quite get into it, but I gave it a second run last week, and I've actually really enjoyed it. I love these stories, and it's nice to listen to them again with some different voices, which is hopefully get me ready for, I think it's Amazon. Is it Amazon redoing it? Because there's going to be different people playing those characters, and it can be hard when you can just visualize Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid, and anybody with a different voice can be a challenge to get into. But I think they've done a good job, and it was nice to listen to it in a different way.
Fair enough. I didn't know it was not Hugh Laurie, but his partner in crime.
Stephen
Fry, who narrated these the original time. So it's interesting they've got Hugh Laurie. What part is Hugh Laurie playing?
He's Dumbledore.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
he's good.
I see some good names on there. Obviously, Matthew McFadden from Deadpool and Succession. Riz Ahmed.
Do you know who he plays?
Who?
Lord Voldemort.
Oh, that's a good choice. Riz Ahmed was in Andor. He's a very good actor. Michelle Gomez, I feel like I should know, but I can't place her.
I don't know.
Cush Jumbo was in that terrible Apple TV show with Peter Capaldi, Criminal Intent or Criminal Record.
Yes, I think she's the main narrator.
Right.
Storyteller.
I recognise Mark Addy. He's Game of Thrones and the stripping thing.
Full Monty.
Full Monty.
He is Hagrid.
He's Hagrid. Good choice. Adil Akhtar was also from Down Cemetery Road, the other Apple TV show. He plays like this odd slapstick character in that. And I recognise Tracy Ann Oberman, but I can't think what. Good cast.
It is, and there's even more people than that in it. It is a really good cast. I just think it's really well done, and I don't normally go for an Audible book where you've got background noises and it's a bit more of a play to a point. But yeah, I've enjoyed it, and like I said, I gave it a second run and enjoyed it, and have since gone to the next book.
Fair enough. I think we call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anybody wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at G5Maniac@mastodon.scot. I am at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to our website and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email, wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.